Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending where you're tuning in from. My name is Chris Rainey, co-founder here at HR Leaders, and I'll be your host for today's live panel discussion where we're going to be talking about how employee recognition and culture shapes tomorrow's resilient workplaces. With that being said, let me introduce you to our amazing moderator for today. I'm handing over the reins to our amazing friend, Rebecca Riley, Head of People Operations at Ocado Group. How are you, Rebecca?
Good, Chris. Thank you very much.
Nice to see you again. I thought before we jump in, I was going to ask you actually, what does recognition and reward mean to you and why is it so important? I thought we'd just start there and then we can introduce our other amazing panelists.
Absolutely. I think if you'd asked me this 5 years ago, I'd have gone straight into, I need to give vouchers. It tops up my compensation schemes and my benefit schemes to make someone's total reward package feel enlivened. But the more I kind of lead people, I realise that recognition is more than just your total reward package. It's about being seen and being valued and appreciated for who you are. And we're going to share with the panel some examples that mean something to them later on.
Amazing. Well, over to you. Have fun.
Great. Thanks very much. Morning, afternoon, everyone, as Chris said. So, Ditte, we want to come first to you, if we may. How do we define a resilient workplace? I tell her I messed up already. Can you introduce yourself? Great start.
Go straight in. Don't worry about it.
Straight in. That'll be that reward focus in just getting let's start with the human element first and recognise everybody.
Yes.
I'll start with Ditte. Let's go with you first, though, Ditte. Introduce yourself and we'll go around the panel.
Okay, I will quickly introduce myself. Thank you for the invitation, first of all. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about such an important topic. My name is Ditte. I'm the CHRO for ElementMaterialsTech. We're headquartered in London. I've been CHRO the last 15 years in big tech companies like Microsoft, also financial services, RSA, life science, and big industrial companies. So glad to be here today. Thank you for the invitation.
So, hello everyone, my name is Mu'attaz Suleiman. I am responsible for the compensation benefits and HR controlling for Business Group Lifecycle Solution by Hela Fulvia.
Hi everyone, my name is Ralph Meyer. I work for a company called WorkHuman. We are an online recognition program, so this is really dear to my heart. Thank you so much for the invitation to speak today.
Hi everyone, and thanks Becca for recognizing that there's going to be lots of puns now, isn't there, throughout this? Yeah. But recognizing we need to and should introduce ourselves. So my name is Derval Blaine. I lead HR for the EMEA and LATAM region for LinkedIn, which hopefully most of you are familiar with.
Hi everyone, thanks Becca. Very pleased to be here around all the inspiring colleagues of mine. I lead the total reward function for GE Vernova at the international level, total rewards and benefits. And I'm very passionate about driving a people-first culture and company, and recognition plays a huge role in that. So I'm super excited about the discussions we're going to have today. Thanks for the opportunity.
And so, Diana, it does lead us very nicely into that first question back to you, Ditte, on how do we define what a resilient workplace is, and more specifically, what is the role, therefore, that we think recognition plays in that?
It's a really good question and something that is super relevant in the world we are living in today with war in Ukraine and a big geopolitical agenda that we're all living in, tons of change, tons of uncertainty. We've been through merit cycles, all of us, and the cost of living and all that is a big part for CEOs and CHROs and HR communities all over the world and the reward functions to really get right. So I think the question on recognition is very, very relevant, because if there's one thing that is certain, that is uncertainty. Whether it's buying new companies, integrating companies, and also lovely as it is, we also have companies out there who see a lot of growth, which is great. So how do we create resilient organizations where change is the new normal? It's a good combination of reward for sure, but also recognition. And I think at the end of the day, I've never seen a statistic where people leave organizations due to pay or benefits. It's never that. It's always number 7 or number 8 in all the statistics I've seen in my life. When people leave organization, it is due to career development, that is just not a nice place to be. You do not have psychological safety. But reward and recognition is very personal. What motivates one doesn't motivate another. So you need today as a leader to have a quite sophisticated way of doing this so you can make sure you retain everyone in your team and in the organization. So that's a little bit my view to start with.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so you talk about uncertainty. Moataz, I know you've been talking about going through transformational change. Maybe you can build on that for us.
Exactly. So as Ditte mentioned, because of all those changes happening in the world, and it's really challenging to the organization to survive, and the organization and the leadership should be really agile, flexible, and they change the strategic direction regularly. And here, I would like also to mention that the more clear the objective and the direction, the more the individual will have will know the added value, the meaningful in such organization. And when we speak about employee recognition, it's going the extra mile. Okay, it's making something extra. But before this, as an individual, I have to have the expectations from me clear. So I think this is somehow basic, but this is somehow managers also lose such basics, that they should, first of all, communicate a clear expectations to the employee, what they expect from them, what kind of behavior should the employee or the individual perform. So when the employee do extra mile, go something beyond, then it will be clear for both the manager and the employee to identify such extra mile. And then the manager should acknowledge this extra mile, see it, and recognize this. So appreciate such a behavior, such a good work, and also combine it with why it's a meaningful behavior, and why the added value to the department function or objective. So this is in a nutshell how I see it.
Thinking about how we do that, it's not that straightforward. And Ditte, you said as well, that we've got to make it personal, and it's individual and different to every individual. Diana, what do you think are effective strategies we can use to make this part of everyday life without overcomplicating it?
Yeah, sure, Becca. Great question. And I'm also going to comment on your previous question, which is very crucial, because you talk about resilient workplace culture. And that's becoming, it's not an option anymore. And it's a resilient workplace culture. We never put these words together, right? Change, as Ditte has also mentioned, has become a constant. So having a resilient workforce is something we have to build in our organization. And the strongest way we can build that is through embedding it into our culture. And I'll slowly transition answering your second question. So thinking very conventionally about rewards and compensation and benefits will not help us have sustainable offerings to navigate this constant change environment. And that's where building a recognition and nurturing a recognition culture has a long way to go, and making our employee value proposition sustain all type of condition and circumstances, right? We've gone through situations where we had our operations were down during COVID, right? We didn't have any budget anymore to do salary increases as we normally do. We had to do salary freezes. How do we make sure during those times that our workforce remain motivated? And that's when we need them the most motivated, because we need them to be creative, to work around the challenges. When we're able to nurture a strong recognition culture, this recognition culture is quite intangible, right? And it navigates all throughout condition. It's not material. So we either have it or we don't. And when we have it, people are going to still want to work for this company because they feel valued, they feel cared for, even if material stuff are not at the level they would want it to be in normal times. So that's a bit on the first question that I really like, because it's the situation is the context of every company in the world today. Now, where do we start, right? It's easier said than done. Talking about recognition culture can sound very abstract. How do we build it? It's actually like, I would say very simply, and I'm not just simplifying for the sake of it, it is a simple approach. It's like any habit you build personally and in a company. Recognizing people and having this habit of recognizing at all levels of the organization, vertically, horizontally, is a habit. And it will have to come with some level of education and training and awareness to our employees. And we as HR have a big role to play, because if we're able to help our organization, our leaders, our managers embrace that habit in their everyday, it's going to slowly become part of their DNA. And it's quite contagious, because the more someone feels recognized and the impact, I mean, if you think about all of you here in the panel and on the online, how do you feel when you feel recognized? It's a great feeling, right? No matter who's giving it to you, your peer, your manager, anyone, right? And you would feel, and you'd feel that you want to kind of pass it forward. So this contagious pandemic piece of it really helps. So I'd say in a way, it's start simple. Tools help, because tools can help in a very in global companies, especially in the digital world, people working from anywhere, tools can help transmit recognition in a more effective way. So, but that's not enough, right? Using the tools and making sure that people are using it the right way. And I say first and foremost, in terms of what makes it successful, is authenticity and genuinity. So and that's the danger of when we start on this journey of wanting to build a stronger recognition culture, let's make sure people are doing it and doing it in a genuine way. And that's part of the education, right? So that's what I would say. There is a lot I can talk about as well on how to make it happen. But I think the idea here is, don't mystify it. It's a simple journey. It's just we need to start somewhere. Start simple and start by raising the awareness. Just talk about it, and then you'll just wake up and see your organization really have benefit from it a lot.
Yeah. So Daryl, is it part of the LinkedIn DNA to show gratitude and appreciation to your employees?
I would like to think that if you asked anybody, not just myself, actually we have some ex-employees on the panel, maybe Ralph can attest.
Absolutely.
There's a reason he's an ex-employee.
Yes, I think it's a resounding yes. And actually that's the point that I was going to make to follow up on a couple of the things that Deanna shared. It's I think the simplest way in terms of thinking about like an integration strategy, if as an organization you feel this is not something maybe that you do very well as a company, is to think about your culture. And to think about the values you extol and what you promote, right? And certainly at LinkedIn, some of our values very much, how we expect people to behave or how we expect people to work on a day-to-day basis is one that's quite a caring human culture, and I think that's really critical. Some of our values, for example, we trust and care about each other. We embody diversity, inclusion, and belonging. We are open, honest, and constructive with each other. So they're just three of the values that I think that really kind of promote that opportunity for feedback in a caring way that allows the opportunity for recognition. So folks aren't shy. Actually, we quite regularly refer to feedback as a gift because the more we know, the better that we do, right? But I think the other piece around ensuring that you're creating that culture is almost reflected in this panel, Becca. I think it's interesting, and actually probably as you even refer to yourself, a couple of years ago, had this panel been in place, it probably would have been a panel of comp and ben specialists. I think the diversity of the folks on the panel just is a testament to, I think, how we're evolving as a profession. I don't think any of us can afford to work in any of maybe the siloed ways that we potentially have in the past, and that creating a culture of recognition, creating strong internal mobility programs, whatever the ask is. It's something that we need to do together as HR professionals, rather than one particular team taking entire ownership. So I think the first thing in terms of strategy is embedding in your culture the values, recognizing the values of recognition. And then threading that through all of the talent practices. So everything from, how performance is assessed, the value placed on feedback, is strong performance rewarded with the opportunity for development, or the opportunity for progression, perhaps, development opportunities, roles, whatever I guess motivates the individual too, because as I think we're all aligned on the fact that recognition is quite personal, and what motivates me is not necessarily what motivates you. So I think thinking about culture first, and then how you thread those values through your talent practices can really reinforce I think that culture of recognition.
Thinking bread and butter, really, isn't it? Think first about your culture, and you can show gratitude after. I mean, building on that, as you said, it's the role of everyone in HR, and in fact the business, not just a complementing.
Yeah, critical component. Yeah.
I don't think we can do our job in human resources or people functions today without a little bit of support from technology. How do you think that comes into play to partner with the culture and the human behaviour?
God, this sounds like a real setup. LinkedIn.
Setup for Ralph.
Yeah. LinkedIn are a real strong customer of Workhuman, actually. And we rebranded it Bravo internally. And honestly, when you make recognition easy with the implementation of technology, it just further kind of helps with the flywheel and the momentum. And again, we tie that back into our values, right? So we leverage Workhuman, or the tool, for peer-to-peer recognition. And so peers nominate peers under the banner of our culture and values. And so, you can nominate a colleague under, we care and trust each other, or, whichever value you choose or is most appropriate for the circumstances. And then we have, depending on the level of contribution, we provide guides for employees. You can give or nominate awards to varying amounts. And I guess what I love about the tool is its agility and flexibility. I think for any organization, it allows you to spend as much or as little or as zero as you choose to. And I would say actually some of our most popular awards, I guess, not surprisingly, is our kudos, which is it actually doesn't cost anything, and so it's literally just using the technology to provide folks with the feeling that they've been seen, and obviously we have it connected to the platform, etc. But that's just an added bonus, I guess. But I think certainly our experience with technology is if you make something easier and more convenient to do, you certainly increase the opportunity and the frequency of it happening. So it's an important part of the equation.
And so Ralph, obviously,
I must have set that up nicely for you,
that platform. It'd be great to hear what you think about not only how technology facilitates that giving of recognition, but how it works alongside with developing the culture of an organisation.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the challenges that we see within organizations is, of course, engagement, and it's something that we're trying to increase that's the goal for us, right? And in a recent study actually by Gallup, where they looked at engagement globally, we can see there's a rise on those levels of engagement, but we can also see that in Europe, we're kind of trailing a little bit. And what that means is, from a disengagement perspective, that disengaged employees kind of leave businesses, right? They don't work for those companies because guess what? They want to go somewhere else, or they lower the morale, or their productivity actually reduces. And so where we see technology play a role in this is, to Ervil's point, is to recognize people for good work, to try and disprove those those disengaged employees, to ensure that from their perspective, they start to feel more culturally engaged at work. So we find that when employees are connected to a culture, they tend to be more engaged. In fact, probably 3.7 times more engaged than a regular employee. We also see that when we feel recognized and feel included and psychologically safe within a business, that we're 68% less likely to actually feel burnt out at work. So that enabler is massively important to help recognize some of these challenges that we're trying to face. And like I said, recognition is an enabler to those types of items. And the technology around that, of course, makes it easier to have that type of engagement, if that makes sense.
It does, and it's particularly relevant to us. So I was thinking about how we measured this, right? So we've talked about it being about how we feel when we receive that recognition and how we feel engaged. And so many of us are obviously familiar with different engagement tools out there. At Ocado, we use Peakon. And whilst we ask the reward question, how content are you with your reward? In my 20-something years of working in Comp and Ben, I've never had anyone tell me they're happy with their total reward package. So we also ask people, do they feel recognised for what they do very directly? And I'm very proud to say that Ocado's results in that are kind of mid of the technology sector. So we're obviously doing something well with our culture of recognition. But it's great as a leader having that information. Just this week, I had a workshop with my own team asking them, I can see you're telling me you don't feel recognised. What is it that you need and want from me? I think what I personally love particularly, and Ralph, wonder if you can elaborate this or open to anyone else, is how I see that then correlate exactly to that point with their engagement and with the retention of the team. We can spend a whole other session, I'm sure Chris would love us to, on how AI and analytics comes together in that, but we'll park that for another day. But do you think we can use the technology to draw that correlation of measurement?
Indeed, yes. No, so one of the benefits we have is we've got access to 1 billion data points. And so quite often we get involved with our clients on researching and understanding how that engagement works versus recognition. And interestingly, we did a study with our Work Human IQ team where we worked with a financial services firm they've got about 22,000 employees, and they had a really good recognition program where about 80% of the employees were exposed to it, right? And so we wanted to know if more recognition led to better outcomes. And so we kind of tested that. So we looked at employees that got 1 to 7 recognition moments per year. And the turnover rate, so, attrition rates, was actually about 13% amongst our population group, which isn't that bad in the greater scheme of things. However, we then looked at a similar population group, except they got 8 to 12 recognition moments per year. And their turnover was actually 11%. So we thought, hang on, can we turn the volume up a bit here and look at a sample set where, we look at more this sort of extreme end of this. So we looked at employee groups with 13 plus or 12 plus recognition moments per year. And their attrition rate was actually 4%. And that was a really interesting point for us. So we thought, hang on, what else does this tell us? And what was really startling for us at that moment was we started to understand that when we see recognition, quite often it's my manager saying, hey, Ralph, you've done a great job. We started to see that if we actually had peer-to-peer recognition as well, that boosted the engagement rates and the feeling of belonging within a business. So much so that, and then I'm kind of trying to remember the stats correctly, but if I did like manager only recognition, my attrition rates would kind of jump down in this instance from 17% to 14%, so about 3-4 basis points. But the peer-to-peer in silo was actually at 9%, and that had a lot of weight. So all sounds like, hang on. And the benefit of this is that during those engagement surveys, we actually saw that employees reported that they could see that they felt that they were part of the culture. In fact, they sort of measured themselves as 5 times more likely to measure themselves as feeling part of that culture. But also, because they felt like they belonged, they could see a career path going forward, and that they were 56% less likely to look for opportunities coming to them. So yeah, those turnover stats can be influenced by recognition, absolutely.
Great.
Ralph, thanks, Becca and Ralph. It's really what you just touched on is super important. And that's for me one of the biggest advantages of having technology, for other than it being an enabler to exercise recognition, but it's a great way to get data. And data is really is so important in our day-to-day. It should be driving decision. We should be always looking at data and analytics. And to your point, we can have a whole session on data and AI, but this kind of technologies will allow us to analyze trends and behavior that can also feed into our education programs and also be able to, for instance, capture cultural differences, because we might not have one education that fits all, right? We probably need to go down the line of adapting the way we integrate, back to the integration question, based on culture, because every culture has a different way of looking at recognition, and people appreciate things differently by culture, right? So this technology platform is a way for us to get data, to analyze data that then in turn can help us build the right strategy, recognition strategy in the company. So thanks for talking about this, Ralph.
I want to jump in for a second with a quick question. Quite a few people in the chat have been asking this, so it's a bit of a fun one. Then we'll go back to the current questions. Especially my good friend Chester Elton asked this question. He wanted to understand from each of you, when was the last time that you were recognized, and what was you recognized for each of you?
He's stolen our clothing, that question. That was in my back pocket. Let's bring this away. But I think it's a great one, and if I may be cheeky and jump in with it, because it was one of the reasons I wanted to actually be on the panel today, was to talk about that. And it was a recent WhatsApp from my boss, the amazing Chief People Officer, Claire Ainscoe. Hi, Claire, if you're watching this. And it wasn't for a piece of work that I'd done. It wasn't for the extra hours I'd put in a project or landing a technology implementation. It was actually a moment when I felt seen for the person that I am and the value that I brought to the organisation, not what my role did. And it was after facilitating an International Women's Day panel. So like this, it kind of gave me the bug for hosting a panel. And I came off it and I was buzzing, I was hyper, and the WhatsApp came in, wow, 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 fantastic, capital letters, exclamation marks. I thought, bloody hell, I've not had feedback like this for the 4 years that I've worked here, but I do one thing that I'm excited about personally. And that's when I get that praise. But actually that meant so much more to me than a 20 quid Amazon voucher, because it showed that Claire valued the time I was giving as a person about something that mattered to me, and that it therefore mattered to the organisation as well. So really glad the question did get asked to give me that opportunity. And Diana, I know you'd got a great example as well.
Yeah, and I know Chris just stole your thunder, Becca, because you wanted to conclude with that.
I'm sorry.
No worries. It's a great question. So it's not my last recognition, but it was the most meaningful one, I'd say, in my career. And it was a time where I had to move from one organization to another within GE. And it's interesting because you talked about the voucher, Becca, and the material recognition. So I had at the same time, it was a recognition from my team, which for me was wonderful. And they recognized me by giving me a gift. And the other way was they also wrote a book. They gave me a booklet, and in that booklet there were messages from each of the team members. And up until today, to be very frank, I forgot what the material gift were. It was either an iPad or an iPod or something around those things. But this booklet of messages, of very meaningful, authentic messages, and it was more than recognition, it was appreciation. And I don't want to go into that field because that's another topic, but appreciation is even more powerful. And they were just appreciating me for who I am and expressing it in those words. This was 10 years ago, and I still have this booklet in my living room. And I honestly go back to it and read it whenever I need a bit of I feel a bit down, or I feel a bit like I'm doubting myself or questioning things. I just go back to that booklet and read it. So just to show you the extent of and the power of appreciation and recognition, and how simple it can be, right? These are the two things that I took away from that experience that I still live in today. So
yeah, I mean, you say that you're separating there that feeling of being appreciated from recognition. I don't think the two have to be separated. I mean, to anyone else on the panel, do you agree with that being seen is what recognition is?
Yeah.
For me,
No, sorry, you go.
No, I think it's a great question. I think, and maybe it's because I'm getting older, but when you talk about appreciation or recognition, where I am in my life now is I really don't care so much about me personally getting recognized anymore. And I care about that my team get appreciated and recognized. So the example that comes into my mind is that I'm just back after some days in Windsor with my own team this week. And our amazing CEO had the opportunity to join us for a day where he actually did a personal speech to each in my team and recognized them for who they were and what they did. And that really makes me proud. It's all about giving back now. There's so many people and you're all in these amazing roles because you've been supported and helped. So I look at it a bit differently. For me, it's all about giving back to the next generation of amazing HR leaders and amazing comms leaders and all the teams we lead. So that makes me most proud when the team I lead or the organization and all our amazing colleagues in the whole of Element, they get recognized for the amazing work they do with customers or internally. So just a viewpoint.
Thank you for sharing that. Devil, you were going to say something.
Just really to agree with you, Becca, I think feeling seen, I guess, and feeling valued is, creates a sense of belonging in an organization that is not to be underestimated, either from a retention perspective or just the general well-being of your employees. And actually just for humans, right? I know we're here kind of in a professional capacity, but I think in our day-to-day lives, sometimes how we behave at work isn't always necessarily how we behave in our day-to-day interactions in the grocery store, in the coffee shop. But who says you can't be as appreciative or, help the individual the other human that you're engaging with, help them feel as seen and valued. And I think even actually personally, the little buzz you get off that when you've helped make somebody feel seen or feel good about themselves. And I think people who feel their best do their best work generally. So let's not just keep it to the workplace, I guess.
Love that. So maybe let's put a spin on it then. So that we talked about when you last received recognition, and Meyer, Ralph, you want to jump in on that one, but maybe turn it on its head and say, when was the last time you consciously made an effort to recognize someone and show your appreciation?
Oh, I'm glad you just said that, because I had an example which was the opposite way around, actually, when I gave someone recognition. So it's like you're in my mind. But this goes back to during COVID, when COVID first started and we all got locked up. And I was working for LinkedIn at the time. And my boss at the time, if she's listening, this is you. And my boss was working so hard just to make us all feel involved, engaged, and just basically went above and beyond, right? And so eventually one day I said, you know what, let me just quickly give her a bravo, right? A quick recognition moment. And I kind of recorded a video where I kind of just bled my heart out saying, hey, thank you so much. Sorry, I'm tearing up just thinking about it. Thinking about how much she did for us during that time, right? And so I sent it, done. So it went to her boss, and it turned out I went to her boss's boss and her boss's boss. That's a consequence, right? And next thing we had a one-to-one, and she looked at me, and I swear I thought I committed like murder or something, because the look she gave me, and she just burst out into tears. And she said, thank you so much. You're the only person that sees and has recognized me for doing this thing that's really hard. And I was like, are you kidding me? You could visibly tell she was just emotionally just exhausted. And I was like, oh my gosh. And so that picked me up all of a sudden, just set her up for the next 9 months. And I was like, simple act like that had such a big benefit. And I still carry that one with me today because it's one that sticks out in my mind, certainly. And, you know, her and I are still really good friends, of course, and I'll never forget that day.
Yeah. I think basic human compassion is what it boils down to, really, isn't it? And I think when we get busy and we're going through transformation, it can be easy to forget that. But I think if we're coming to you, I know you're going through the change, and when we're talking about multicultural reasons, you've got an example, so I'll let you go ahead.
So yeah, I just want to share an example on the other way around. So usually we receive recognition when we are doing good things, but I would like to share a story when a mistake take place. So and this has happened with me personally when I was junior, starting my first consultant position, and then I did a fatal mistake, and I was really, you know, completely not sure what to do. But the first thing that when I realized the mistake, that I informed my manager, and I think this is like normal behavior. But the reaction of my manager at this time really affected me personally along my way, and the way that I deal with the problems and mistakes. And the first thing that he said to me, "Good job." And I was like inside, "Good job? No, it's a shit job. So how come?" And he told me, "No, it's a good job that you first tell me, so we can act fast and work on it." And this is exactly what happened. That my psychological safety turned upside down immediately, and I start on focusing not only on solving the problem right now, but also take some measures in the future to avoid this, enhance the process with the colleagues in order to avoid this. And this helped me a lot in the future in dealing with the problems, and also dealing and with other colleagues. So yeah.
So the role of a leader in that moment is really important, isn't it? And I think one hopes that our HR professional and colleagues are caring and compassionate and know when to create an environment of psychological safety. But we have a role to play in also building that capability in the business. Diana, maybe if I could ask you, how do you think we play the role in HR of developing leaders so they see this as important as we do and make it part and parcel of their everyday life?
Thanks, Becca, for asking, because one point I was going to make is about the fact that let's not forget our leaders are very visible in the organization, right? And they are role models for our organization, and they should lead by example. So if there was a place where I would start with the education, it would be our leaders. It would be our CEO, our leaders, because when they're going to demonstrate a recognition, they're going to recognize each other. And the more they do it transparently and publicly, the better. Because if you think about yourself, you're looking at your CEO, and he or she is recognizing peers, or your CFO recognizing the CEO, and it's very humble, right? I'm not necessarily for only the recognition to come top down. Recognition can come bottoms up, to the example that was also just shared, and that's where it really reflects such authenticity, that when I'm recognizing my manager is because I truly appreciated what this person did. And if we see that at the level of our leaders, who are in theory people we admire, people we look up to, that are leading by example, that's where we get as well kind of encouraged to replicate a similar behavior. So that's one way to do it. That's, I would say, the layer I would start with. And I think data will be very powerful to demonstrate to these leaders why recognition is important. I mean, we all know data has a lot of power. So if I'm able to show them, these are all smart people, right? And I show them that, hey, look, when you're gonna drive this kind of recognition and build and nurture a recognition culture in our company, these are the benefits that you're gonna see. These are some data that are demonstrating that. I think they will do whatever it takes to motivate their people and to drive productivity, because motivation drives productivity. So I think we need to work on the messaging with them. The education has a bit of a different messaging, but then these would be my first targets. And then things will naturally, like I said earlier, it's contagious.
Yeah. So speak to their drive for performance improvement, but also their human compassion at the same time. I like that. Ditte, you were nodding your head quite vehemently there. Do you agree with that? Do we do anything differently with our leaders?
I agree. Leadership, it's all about role modeling. And I was even thinking as you were talking, Diana, it's, start with the CEO. Yeah, because if you can create the culture of top-down behavior and bottom-up behavior, and you can get that snowball rolling, you have an amazing company. And often, as you know, I've been working with many CEOs in my career, and they often feel lonely, and they don't get a lot of recognition from the chairman or chairwoman. So it's, at the end of the day, we are all just people, no matter who we are, who wants to be seen and heard for the job that we do. And so I agree, the human aspect and the leadership focus, and then make sure that we embrace it at the top. So because everyone is watching what also the senior leaders are doing, and if they don't see that human behavior and that recognition and reward and humility, then it's difficult. So I think it is the role of the senior HR leaders to make sure that that culture is embraced from the top. So I love what you said, Diana. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you for that. Devil.
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think, it's kind of come full circle. I think if you can embed recognition as part of your culture, then it becomes everybody's role and everybody's responsibility. And yes, it absolutely, the tone from the top really counts. But it's everybody's responsibility, because recognition is no longer the mainstay or the product from a comp and benefits team. It's gone way beyond that. It's about feeling seen, feeling valued, which is baked into our diversity, inclusion, and belonging strategies. We know that, for example, in the UK, employees stay 62% longer in companies that value internal mobility and create internal opportunities for their employees. So it's baked into retention strategies. It's become one of those things. It's like a fundamental and foundational building block for a successful talent strategy for any organization. So if our business leaders aren't really getting that, then I think we do have a role in helping them understand for sure the criticality of recognition in just the ecosystem of any organization.
Yeah, I mean, really great summary there. But so I'm going to come to everyone else, building on Devil's advice to us all as we come off this panel today. One piece of advice would we give to the guys online watching or listening to us that they can start with immediately to make a difference in their organisation to embed recognition culture? We'll go to you first on that, Moataz, for me.
So basically, you have a free tool, no cost, that you can start work on that has a great influence on the engagement of the employees. So yeah, this is how I see it. It's just a free, and you just has to start to just give it a shot and start.
Give it a shot and start. Love that. Ditte, how about you?
If there's one practical thing, start tomorrow by finding the 3 people in your team or in another team in your organization that you personally want to sit down and write an email, give a call, write a letter, give some recognition. It can be very few words who can make a huge difference to an individual. So start tomorrow.
Yeah. Ralph?
I agree. Start tomorrow. I would say
today.
Certainly, or start today. Absolutely, after the session. Certainly, I would say one of the things when you're providing that recognition moment, make sure you call out why you're recognizing that moment and why it's valuable, so that I know that is thanking me, but what are you thanking me for, so I can keep doing that, if that makes sense, and so that has ramifications where my colleagues might try and replicate that or understand what a good behavior is. So I said, please start as soon as you can.
Diana finishes off then your one piece of advice if you're going to build on those great pieces already.
Sure.
Thanks, Becca. I think what they said, I totally agree with. One additional point, very concrete step, capture where you are today by using data. So the best way to understand where do you stand today on the spectrum of recognition culture, use data to measure how far you are of where you want to be, and continuously keep on measuring data so that you can see yourself evolving. So again, data is very important, and use that to evaluate where you are today so that you can pave the way through where you want to go in a much more strategic way.
Brilliant. Thank you so very much. Chris, I'd like to start immediately then by saying thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to everyone today and facilitate this panel. It's been really interesting and lovely to hear that so many people think it's more than just an Amazon voucher after a bit of
100%. I was going to share a story earlier, but I didn't want to interrupt you. But I carry this stone with me every day that has the word gratitude on it. Similar to the work to what Diana mentioned about her book. It was given to me by my coach, Chester Elton, who's in the chat right now. And when I leave my house every day, I carry this stone and my phone. They're the things that I carry everywhere with, and it's a constant reminder. And he gave that to me to recognize me as the improvement I've made as a leader and as a friend to him personally, and many other things as well. But it's a constant reminder. It's just it doesn't cost much. It's just a stone. It's got a little engraving of gratitude written on it. But this means so much to me, and I carry it with me. It's also a physical element of holding it as well. So I just wanted to say that. And when we spoke earlier about CEOs, starting at the top, Chester asked me during my coaching, what kept you at your last company? Because I was there for 10 years in that business since I was 17 years old. And the first thing that came to mind is that every time we had a success as a business, the CEO would walk down onto the sales floor, walk past everyone and congratulate every single individual.
Wow.
And he did that for the 10 years I was there. And don't get me wrong, it was a small company, so obviously he could do that. In big companies, we can't do that. But I remember that meant more to me than the deal, than the commission, than anything else. So I everyone was almost waiting, when is he going to come down? But he made an effort, and that's the first thing that stuck with me. And it's also when I thought about when I got headhunters coming to me trying to get me to leave and all the things, I was like, I like it here, I love it here, I want to stay here as well. So I just wanted to share that those two stories, and both of those things don't cost anything to do. So thank you for everyone for joining. Thank you for all of you, all the panelists, for sharing your story. Thank you for being an amazing moderator as well, and you did a fantastic job as well. And obviously thank you to our friends at WorkHuman for helping us bring this panel together. I can see already below that loads of you have already downloaded it, but you have their report below you can download directly beneath the video right there, and you can learn how to leverage recognition to foster cultural transformation. There's a guide there, so do that. Apart from that, everyone, wherever you are in the world, enjoy the rest of your day. And we look forward to seeing all of you again soon. Thanks so much. Bye, everyone.